Hey, Janet. Oh, it's so nice that you could drop into the call here. I know you're busy, but I'm glad that you were able to come in through your busy day so that we could talk a little Donkey Kong Bananza. Don't be worried by the fact that my clothes are now completely different. If you're watching the video version of this, why does it look different than the rest of the call? It's fine. It's fine. I'm just very sweaty from parking at the airport in the wrong parking spot and then having to go pay $3 for one parking ticket, move my car to another area, pay another $3 so I could be at the right terminal. Anyway, Donkey Kong Bananza is a game that you and I have been playing, Janet. I was really looking forward to this game, which I don't mean that to sound like I'm not enjoying it. I'm just, Switch 2 didn't start for me until Donkey Kong Bananza came out, really. Like, I bought a Switch 2 to secure a device that will let me play Donkey Kong Bananza when it comes out a little over a month after the Switch 2 launched.
This is the perfect place for us to do an awesome training montage, don't you think? We'll practice all sorts of awesome moves, one after the other, getting stronger, getting faster. Run! Let's do this! I am strong! You and me, we're the best!
I've played a ton of hours of this game. I've easily put in like 10-ish hours like in the first week, which is certainly a lot for me to invest in a single game. I went well past the point of like the podcast demarcation line, which is I have played enough to hold my own and have a substantive conversation about this game and just blew past it because I wanted to play more of it. But I find myself at a interesting place with the game, and it's something I wanted to unpack with you because both of us are such big fans of platformers. Well, one, is this game a platformer is a separate conversation we can get into. I have thoughts on that. But more primarily, this is a game where I'm playing it a lot. I'm having a lot of what I would call fun. I'm doing a lot of things. But it's not a game that gives you a lot of pushback. It's not a game that I would describe as having a ton of challenge. And my endorphins are through the roof because, boy, every 30 seconds, it's an ooh banana or it is something else. And it brings me joy. But I find myself conflicted on figuring out how good it is because it's a game in which, if you're unfamiliar, in Donkey Kong Bananza, the hook of it here is like everything in the world, quote, everything. A lot of the world is fully destructible. And if you think there's something hiding behind it, there probably is. You are often rewarded by destroying everything in front of you, and you will find some sort of collectible that feeds into a system, and there will be a cool animation and some fun sound effects that put a smile on your face. But what do you make of Donkey Kong Bananza? Does my ranting around like I'm spending a lot of time with a game that I'm not sure I'm having fun with, but I'm having a great time? Does that ring true at all for your time with it so far?
Yeah, and I think new genre just dropped. Punchformer. A punching platformer. Yeah, I mean, I think, we can, get into the platformer of it all. Obviously, there's jumping in this game, and it has a lot of, I think, the markings of a 3D platformer. Lots of rare energy in this game with the rock people. I don't know. Apologies to the rock people. I don't know the name of what they're called. I think that element is very brilliant and charming. I wrote in my notes, 3D platformer is when things have eyes, and this game has that. But I am kind of surprised by how much this is supposed to be my moment, our moment.
Yes.
And I don't think I don't really like it that much. And I think the thing is, obviously it's like a technological marvel. I think it's the ability to do destruction and like the ability to crawl out of the holes that you make, which sounds, I guess, on its face really simple, but just the way that that could have been so much more janky than it is, and it works so well. My beef with this game is that for me, with platformers and collectathons, the collection feels great, right? Like number go up. Like platformers are such a number go up game, but I think a lot of people lose sight of the idea of what does it mean to have a reason behind your collectibles? And I think for a lot of players, they keep it surface level. They say, oh, well, it helps you progress, or, oh, well, it, you know, in Bonanza, it gives you the skills, or the fossils can be used for currency. Sure, that's like a mechanical loop reason. But what's the real reason for the collectibles? The real reason for collectibles is to engage with the world in interesting ways. Maybe you achieve, you know, a challenge. Maybe you find a certain area. Maybe you solve a puzzle. And Bonanza has those things, which I do think are honestly a lot of times really well crafted. I think the hidden stuff in the side areas is like really smart and challenging. There's a lot going on to appreciate, but when you put it all together, it feels like this amorphous amalgamation of things. I find myself heavily disoriented in this space. I know I'm doing things that I can appreciate. Sometimes I'm doing things that are fun. But when I kind of look around, I feel like the world is spinning. When I leave these side areas, I feel disoriented to like the general world level environment that I'm in. And frankly, I feel like I'm sleepwalking through this game. It's like I'm just kind of scanning and then I fall into another banana, and it happens so often again and again that I feel like it doesn't really matter. It almost feels like what people, not to make this a pro-rich podcast, but like it almost feels like, you know what, when you get to that certain point of having so much money, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like that. I think there's almost so much fun packed in, it kind of becomes a little bit meaningless. So I'm left feeling empty. I feel like I should be really into this, and yet I'm left wanting.
I think I found myself in a similar space where when I am playing it, I'm having a really good time. Like, it is fun to destroy the world. It is delightful to, like, at its best, like, run a scan. In the game, everything is pretty deep. Like, some things are pretty obvious. Like, there's an objective, and, like, get to the top of this, and you'll get a banana at the top. But frequently what's happening in Bonanza is everything is sort of, like, dug into the world in a way that either through random chance, like of just like smashing through, you'll find something, or using a scanner, you get something like kind of highlights like a ping, and it's like, well, how do I get to that? And at its best, like, that is really fun. I think the game is operating at its most interesting often in these side challenges. Like, every time I get a little circle and I gotta pound it to go to like a little weird other area, I'm finding that's the most fun I'm having with the game, because what happens is you have a discrete level in front of you in which if you press pause, it'll say there are 3 bananas here. Now, if you just walk through that level and just do these like modest platforming or exploration challenge in front of you, enemy bashing, you'll get that 1 banana. But when you get to that end, what you're going to discover is it's the 3rd banana. And there were 2 bananas before that. Where the hell are those bananas? And those are genuine sort of brain teasers. Like, you have to rotate the camera in an interesting way to find like a destructive path. Like, oh, I can't climb on this because in theory the game says you can climb on anything. You can destroy everything. It's not true. There are surfaces that are slick that you can't climb. There are certain environments that either parts of the environment that either have to be powered up to get through, or just, I don't know, Donkey Kong's just not strong enough. You can't do it. And that feels less of a limitation as much as intentional level design to give the player a reason to look at the space and think about it. That happens a lot in these side areas. And I love an area which, if you finished just the main goal, you could be done with this in 2 or 3 minutes. But I've spent 15 minutes in it because I don't know where that middle goddamn banana is. I got the first banana, I got the 3rd banana. Where is that middle banana? And that is, I think, some of the best stuff that this game has to offer. But frequently in the world, it feels like mindless nonsense that is really cool to look at. It is very pleasing to watch the world be destroyed and create unique paths to find things, but it's filled with too much stuff. And it feels less like level design as much as it's world design, right? Like, these little like separate areas are discrete levels that I'm exploring. I can see a communication between me and the level designer. In the world, it's sort of, well, we built a world, and then it almost feels like they hit a randomizer. It's like, now there's just stuff in it. And sometimes there's discrete sort of challenges. Find 4 objects in this general area. That's fun. But often it feels like, I don't know, like dig down and there's a banana there. And they'll assign a little like name to it, like banana hidden in the canyon. It's like, okay, was it? Like I sort of just was hitting things, and then I found something. And this is a Mario 60. Have you played Mario 64?
Oh, of course.
Okay. And I bring that up not like Janet is younger than me, but like
Have I played
hell yes.
Mario 64? I have
yes.
the little peach stained glass thingy made of wood.
Please, someday, I would love for them to actually do a remake of that game.
Yes, it's needed. Don't tell me about that DS game either. That thing was trash.
Yes.
And I loved it because the mini
with the thumb to approximate analog stick on the
or
touch
the
screen.
like weird. You start as Yoshi and then you got a hat and then you're Mario. Anyway, it was fun to do the trampoline mini game thing. That was like one of the best things they made. I will admit.
Yes. So bring up Mario 64 because Mario 64 is this really interesting. Aside from the defining much of exploring a 3D space, what is a 3D platformer, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of revolutionary things happen in Mario 64. But in terms of the arc of Nintendo designing of a platformer, it introduces objective-based platforming, right? Like in Mario 64, the structure is, you go into Peach's castle, there's individual doors that lead you to individual worlds, but you're going in with like, okay, I'm going to go after this star, which means the world is slightly different, and the objective I'm after is slightly different. And there's an intentionality to what the player is doing there, and that it feels very discreet and interesting, and there's an arc to what I'm doing. Often in Bananza, it doesn't feel like there's an arc to what I'm doing moment to moment. It feels overstuffed, and again, I'm having a really great. It's like I still think about certain objectives in Mario 64. Like, oh, it was so fun to do this, like to carry the penguin in the ice world, like from the top to the bottom. Like, man, like I remember that. I don't remember. I played 10 hours of Bonanza. I don't remember much of it. Like, I couldn't tell you about like a cool banana I found. I couldn't tell you about a cool area of the world that I explored. I did a bunch of stuff, but it feels very empty calories in a way that feels deliberate. Like this is the feeling they were going for, like mission accomplished in terms, I think, of what Bonanza wanted to do. But I find myself, and I think you're finding yourself as the sort of like, hey, like I'm here for, hello, Nintendo made a new platformer, like time for a feast. I find myself a little disappointed in that regard so far.
Yeah, I wonder if not to just like, I think sometimes there's a fine line between like changing how you play to maybe get more enjoyment and also trying to like maybe justify why some, it's not that there's things that are flawed. It's that like you have to realign, how you're playing. But it's funny. I think the game does hit a lot different if you just conceptualize the worlds as like hub worlds. It's like, oh, it's actually a really good hub world, but it's not a good world. Yeah, and I think it is just there's too much in it. I think if it was, and that's kind of the one of my beefs with like 3D with collectathons, and like I think what separates like a good one from a bad one, and this isn't like completely cut across the board, because I do think like if you think of like Breath of the Wild with the quark seeds, you could argue like I don't know, there's too many quark seeds or something, but like I don't the way they're constructed though, they're all interesting and they're all kind of like hidden even deeper in a way that like you don't find yourself chasing them. Like I think people often make the argument, oh well, just if you're not having fun collecting everything, just stop. And it's like, well, but I want to engage with what you put there. And it's like, well, not everything I put there is good. You just use what you think is good. And I had this beef with Odyssey too, to a degree, where I think sometimes when you trivialize those things so much, it makes them less enjoyable, because like I think the best games are games that make me want to see all of it. It's like, oh, you can have a fun time just doing the baseline, but don't you want to do a little bit more? And I'm like, I do, and I'm really enjoying it. And I feel like I get value from doing that extra stuff. In Bonanza, I feel like there's so much stuff I lose value as it goes on. Like I spent so much time in that first like sort of actual world, like after you do the tutorial area, and I was like, I think I have to stop, because I open the menu and there's like 80 more bananas. And it's like, why are there so many bananas? It's
also,
like,
where are
I'm
they?
10 hours into this game and I have like 180 bananas. There's like 50 hours of this game left. What is going on? Yeah, and I think the thing I want to swing back to too, with you mentioning the side areas, what's extra brilliant to me isn't just the like 1, 2, 3, where's 2? There's obviously fun in that too. But what trips me out is that there's like a secret collection of them as well, which I'm like, oh, this is where there's like a secret 3 that exists. And sometimes you get to the end and it's like the one you got was part of the secret collection.
Wait, what?
And yeah, there's like, so on the door shows 3 bananas.
Yes.
1, 2, 3 bananas. There's more than 3 bananas in those areas.
What?
Yeah, like there's like a secret set of like extra bananas that are like.
Did you find this on your own? Does the game communicate this to you at some point?
I think so, because it shows like names the level and it shows like, you know, which banana you got or whatever.
Yeah.
But then they have another name that's like the hidden ones or whatever. I'll try to find, you know, via someone's guide content like more proper, clearer language for like describing that. But there's like a lot of bananas in those areas, and they're really well hidden and they're really like challenging. I'm trying to think of one. Again, it's kind of the like everything blends together. I know there was like a bunch in the again, they all like blend together. That's which is kind of the problem with the game. Yeah,
well,
it's
anyway,
like it's very like they're well hidden and there's like a lot of layers to the challenge there. But like the moment to moment I think is good. Like and this is why like I left the preview cycle of this game being like, this seems pretty cool. Like it's got some, you know, fun stuff, fun challenges. But the big picture I think gets lost for Bananza for me.
Well, I struggle with this because and this is where I mean, but like, is this game a platformer? You do jump. This game is not that concerned with jumping, how you jump, platforming. Like the difference between Astrobot and its interest in the term platform in a platformer is fundamentally different than Donkey Kong Bonanza. They have different priorities, right? They're different styles of games, and I think that's why you mentioning, sure, if we put it in the larger bucket of a platformer, fine, I'll concede that. But the Collectathon is like, this is a collectible centric platformer. Astrobot has collectibles, but it is a platform centric platformer that has collectibles, and I enjoy finding the collectibles in Astrobot. I got all of them. Like, you know, I did everything I could in that game, but their scarcity was part of the joy. And I think that's also why I really like the discrete levels in Bonanza where, okay, there's 3 to find here. One's obvious. It's at the end of the challenge. The 2 you need to go, you know, seek out. The scarcity is part of what I find enjoyable because it means I need to engage with the level design and the aesthetics and the mechanics on a deeper level than what I'm often doing in Bonanza, and I think this speaks to my issue with it. You can spend 5-6 hours in one of these hub areas, really feel like you have seen everything. And then you will go to the objective list of like what's left. It's like, oh, I missed 25 bananas, like 32 fossils, and like I've spent real time in this. And I'm missing a lot. And that is not fundamentally a problem. My issue is that the only way to actually find all that stuff is then to go by maps that mark it on your map for you. There is really no way as the player to look at the environment, scan it, and feel confident that you could use the language of the world to identify where everything is. Like at a certain point, I feel like I've scanned everything. I've looked around. There's no way I'm going to find 20 more bananas. Okay. Well, I'm glad the game has I wish more games had this. Again, so like I'm also complimenting the fact that more games should give you the option to purchase things or turn on stuff that's like, can we just show you where everything is? You still got to go, even if that's a post game, you know, like, hey, game's over. Do you want us to turn on where all the, because I do like going back and finding that stuff to a point. And I think the second world of Bonanza, I did literally everything. I got all the bananas. I got all the I found quite literally everything and enjoyed it. And I've kind of broadly played the game. I play a lot of collectathon games. I end up collecting roughly 75% of everything, right? Like that's usually where my irritation with tracking individual things down starts to kick in. And then I just move on to the next area for a lack of repetition. But that's sort of my problem here is the levels where the areas where there is scarcity, I find them fundamentally more interesting to engage with. And then even with the worlds as sprawling as they are, I don't feel like they communicate a design language that allows me to engage with them without having to then go spend thousands of fossils or of the gold that you collect, hundreds of thousands of like gold coins in order to get map markers. And it's like, all right, well, it's kind of less interesting to go where X is on the map than it is to, and like Mario 64, like go rescue the Babam. It's like, what does that mean? Okay, well, I guess I'll go explore the world till I find where the Babam is, and I'll figure out what I need to do. And I think I can't tell if that's like boomer platformer in me. It's like, buddy, they just don't make games like this anymore. Thankfully, you got Astrobot. I think there's some of that, right? I do think there's some of the reason I loved this genre is kind of dead or like exists in different forms. And companies like Nintendo have moved away from it. I don't like the moonification, like for lack of a better like way of explaining it, of Odyssey or Bonanza. But that's clearly the kinds of games that Nintendo wants to make these days. And I thought Bowser's Fury was brilliant. That was a better version of one of these, which is like give you a bunch of like a hub area to go to discrete areas and then do things there. I thought Bowser's Fury did that better than Bonanza does. But I don't know. Again, like I do wonder if this is a slightly boomer take from both of us for a kind of genre that used to be king of the mountain in video games, and these days is a little more fleeting.
People did warn me about getting old. This is the thing that people were talking about. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like whoever's like, it's that Simpsons meme, right? No, it's the children that are wrong. But yeah, I mean, I just think I mean, obviously, people are really loving it. Like, this is kind of, I wouldn't say, I guess I would mark my Bonanza take, and by extension your take, as like an unpopular take. We're like, what do you mean? It's fun. There's stuff happening all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but like, it wasn't about what you're getting and why you're getting it. It was about the act of getting it. And I think sometimes that act is really great in Bonanza, and sometimes it's like, I'm drunk stumbling home. And they're like, ooh, banana. It's like, okay, I don't know. I guess I found this thing. Like, it doesn't really matter.
You're drunk at home and like your significant other is like, I'm going to make a pizza. I don't need that. And they put it out and you're like, ooh, pizza. Like,
yeah,
oh, thank you. Like, you saved me.
No, that's not like, it's not completely black and white to me though either. Like, I think there are moments where the world has bright spots, but again, I think our struggle to pin down those exact moments is kind of like part of the problem. But I remember there being like an area, I don't know if it was like the first area, because again, some of it like looks sort of samey, but they have some cool moments of things like I know the first bit of like curiosity I had, and I forgot if I think I did eventually figure out how to get over there, but like there was in the first area, which is called, who could forget, the lagoon layer. Okay, the lagoon layer of the game.
Where you have like, you have to solve the water problem, right? And like,
yeah, lift the things.
That is like, in the areas I've played, the best example of like, I think when this game is doing this well, right? Like, here are 3 discrete, how do you get to those places? I don't know, man. Go figure it out. Ooh, like that's what I like to do. That's what I like to do in these games.
Like, I like wrote a note in like, the thing I was looking at was, I think there was a really large like fossil like on a high up area, but you couldn't just climb up it. And I wrote, loved having curiosity in this game. The how do I get there is what like moves me towards exploration, like how to do a thing. I think they also do a good job with some of the sort of enemy design in terms of being like utilitarian. Like, I'm a big fan of that trope for enemies where, it's like, oh, you have the guys that throw the bomb rocks and then use those rocks to like throw them back or like do something. They also had like a really cool part in like a tunnel in the open world, kind of pseudo open world area, where you were fighting an enemy, and I forget like what they were typers or what the deal was, but if you like killed them, it also kind of destroyed the terrain you were on, so you kind of had to like mess with that. There was like a push and pull sort of there, and I think those parts are really cool. I think the rock jump as a concept, awesome, love it. You tear up terrain, and then you have like, this extra bit of movement. I'm not sure what they'll do with other like I'm in the, I just finished like the ice world. I forget the names of them, but they had this cool like, and they had like a middle sort of world that was just like, hey, which next world do you want to go to? And they had this cool mechanic where you punched like, it was like a colored block, and it filled a different color block on like another side. And I'm like, oh, there could be something really cool with that. It's like almost a play on the Mario timed platforms. And I think there's like bright spots here, but ultimately like there's, and I don't want to like distill it to this because I think it's made beyond this. Like, there's more care that goes into this, but it feels almost like tech demo-y. Like, it reminds me of like, when I went to GSC, I listened to a lot of the Astrobot talks, and they walk through like their sort of process, which frankly is a very like feeling based process, like what's a cool mechanic, and then we kind of build around that rather than like, you know, Mario 64. Again, I don't really know how it was made, like the dev talks from that era, if there were dev talks from that era, probably not, but it feels a lot more like worlds were like conjured in the mind and then mechanics kind of went around that made sense, is like at least the feeling. But Astrobot is such like a physics feeling game, and it feels like Bananza said, yeah, I heard y'all liked physics. And I was like, yeah, sometimes, but like everything is just the physics of the game, but the physics is limited to just kind of like the punching, which just isn't enough for me. While like an Astrobot, like when there were those big moments of physics, they were in relation to like the world you were in. So it's like, oh, play with the goo in the water, you know, hit the gems and spin really fast. And that felt really great because it was like bolstered up by like the design around it. Yeah, I feel like the conversation we're having is almost like that. I don't know if you ever saw that clip of Beyonce saying, people don't make albums anymore. People make singles. They don't make albums. So then they burn out. It's like, Bonanza feels like people don't make albums anymore. Like, it feels like a playlist, not an album. And does that mean the music's bad? No, but like, it's not an album. And like, I sat down to put a record on. And instead I feel like I got a lot of singles, a lot of hits.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I think part of my mixed feelings is I just spent a ton of time in the canyon area. Like I just got towards the spoke period you're talking about, where it's like you can go left, you can go right, you can kind of choose which world to do next. And I haven't done that part because I put it down to finish Clear Obscure. So now I can go back to Bonanza and see how that goes. I think the canyon layer is the like weakest of the opening areas, like by far. It is not that interesting to look at. I think it suffers from the most amount of like readability problems of like what's in front of me and like what could be hidden, and also has some of the most mindless sort of bashing to find things. Like it just didn't. It's like, oh, we like the mine carts from Donkey Kong Country. Like, let's build an area like that incorporates that. That's cool. I love Donkey Kong Country too. I love the fact that this game has great reverence for Rare's contributions to Donkey Kong as a franchise. But the canyon area, I think, is like emblematic of the worst impulses of Bonanza, whereas the hilltop area and the lagoon area, those are like, I think the lagoon is like typifies like, I wish the whole game was areas like this. I think it would have been really cool. And even the hilltop area, which comes after that, is still like, it's a modestly sized area where you can basically kind of survey most of it in front of you. And I found that density is also scarcity, in which like, here's like a pretty small plane for me to interact with to figure out where the secrets are. I found that like pretty enjoyable. Like I found 90% of the secrets in the hilltop area on my own. And I was like, all right, great. I'll go buy the rest of the maps. And it was just to fill out the last couple that I didn't get. That felt fine. Whereas in the canyon area, it's like, I have 20 plus bananas that I'm going to have to go purchase objectives for to figure out where to clear those out. And maybe I just shouldn't do that, and I should move on so I can like avoid hitting the kind of burnout that I often hit in collectible games. But I guess my tension there is like, but you want me to collect it. So is it my fault that I burn out because you did a poor job of like laying out these collectibles? Like this is different than...
So, like we never said all the food at the buffet was good. You have to kind of just pick... I guess it is kind of like that.
But when part of the reason I've always praised Nintendo, I've always often used Nintendo as my benchmark for collectible design, which is to say, often the reason to like, why do you find the 3 hidden gold coins in a Mario platformer? Which is like how they started out, like first experimenting with sort of objectives along the way when you're broadly just going left to right to finish the stage. Well, because they rewarded exploration. They rewarded the player being curious about the world around them. And often the reason I chafe at collectibles in other types, non-platforming type games, is because it never feels like it's a reward. Like it's just a checklist. Like it's just to get the trophy. It's just to say that you collected it. And it doesn't usually feel like an organic reward for engaging with the world, or there's no way reasonably to find all of this unless you engage with a guide. And the moment that like I'm going to Guidesville, then we're going to a Checklistville. And that's usually where I sort of peace out on wanting to find this stuff. But Nintendo historically has been really smart about I do want to find those three. I do want to find those coins because it usually means like I used the camera in a clever way to like look around something. It's like, oh, that's a fun reward that I find really interesting to engage with. But the moment we got to Odyssey, like felt like a real break in terms of how Nintendo conceptualized this stuff where, oh, what people want is not 15 things to collect. They want 115 things to collect. And I'm like, no. Like, I think the 15 were good. Like, 15 really good ones is better than 115. Like, I don't need the little, like, yay, hey. Like, the ooh banana is funny every time. I will grant them that. Every time it happens, if the kids are in the house, I hear it from across the house. They'll shout, ooh, banana. And it's very funny every single time. And I suspect it'll be funny until I finish the game. But again, I guess it's that scarcity thing. And that endorphin rush is not something I need as a reason to keep playing. But it feels like the game feels like it needs that to get you to keep playing. And I don't think that's because there's a lack of like talent or cleverness within the rest of the game. Because as you and I have pointed out, those side levels, like, brothers, like we could have made a whole game like this. And sometimes they do. Sometimes you see it in the level design where they found a way to fuse the randomness of the world terrain and the fun of the destructibility with like, but also like, here's a cool, clever thing we're going to ask you to do. And I just wish the game had more of that. And at least in the hours I've played, the areas I've been to, I find it tilts towards more, isn't the chaos fun? It's like, it is. But it's not what I'm here for. And it sounds like you and I have ended up in a similar place with the game.
Yeah, I'm also looking to see. I'm like, are there these bonus bananas? I'll have to try to like go back to my file and see if there's these.
I think we might be talking about the same thing, which is. But if I'm not, because my recollection, it's been a couple days since I played it, as I was finishing up Clair Obscure, like I said, but is that like they'll list 3 bananas, but only one is like directly going to be in front of you, which is like often at the end of the like platforming challenge. And then it's up to you to figure out where bananas 1 and 2 are like deviated from that central path.
maybe that is the case. Either way, it doesn't matter because we're speaking towards the same thing.
You were blowing my mind. I thought there was like 4th hidden layer bananas. And if there
were. Maybe they're not. I don't know. The point is, that speaks to 2 things. 1, there's some really cool design stuff happening. And 2, it's hard to remember any one specific thing because it all is kind of a bit of an amalgamation. But yeah, like and maybe it's one of those things where it's like, I had no idea other players had like a different, I don't know, connection with like collectibles where it's like, well, it's fun because like you did a thing. It's like almost like what this feels like. So I do long distance running. Haven't done it in a while. Kind of took a little bit of a break after doing my 30 races in my 30s, and I did the marathon and all that. It feels like people were like, yeah, what you love is collecting medals. No, I mean, I do like getting the medals. Like I only do races that have medals because I think it's fun to have like a little memento of the thing. But what I like is running. And this is a way to like give me a reason to run, give me like a structure and a goal and that like, and it feels like there were people who were running alongside me and they're like, yeah, I just really like medals. And I'm like, I thought we liked running. Is that not why we were like, and yeah, that is kind of the,
that is a really important distinction. I think you're drawing like something really important, which is, again, I'm not trying to, maybe I am a little bit. I guess I am being judgmental of people who want the shiny object because for me, I don't care about the shiny object. What I care about is the journey to the shiny object. And Nintendo used to historically take a little more care with that journey feeling worthwhile. And what you got at the end was the medal because they put something at the end. It's, why do you grab coins in a Mario game when lives no longer function? It's like, well, because it's just fun. Like, it's fun to collect the coins. And I collected the medals or, the bananas, like whatever, is the version of it in whatever game Nintendo's developing because they made the journey to collecting it worthwhile. And often with collectibles, I think what you're correctly identifying is the journey to get it is not worthwhile because what's the important part is getting the medal at the end so you can add it to your collection. When I think you and I are saying, well, no, like the running to get to that collectible, to get to that banana, like that's the fun part. And I think these games have, in scaling the amount of collectibles, have lost sight of making all of each of those more meaningful. And I think that's a shame because I preferred it when each one of those felt like a moment. And now the bananas just wash over you in a way that it's funny because I think the gold coin comparison actually is kind of apt here. I enjoy collecting the coins in a mindless sort of way because it puts a smile on my face, but I don't remember any of the gold coins that I collected, right? You collect 100 of them to get a 1-up.
Except for when there's that room where they like fill it with them. That's lit. Like the
bananas sort of feel like collecting 100 coins. Like,
yeah,
I'm collecting them because it's fun to collect them, but I don't remember the journey to collect any of those individual coins, except that when I collect 100 of them, I get a 1-up. And when I collect enough of them here, like I feel a series of checklists, and that just feels a little emptier than how these games have often. Astrobot is a meal. Like, this feels like a buffet. It's like a buffet is like fun, but it's not like going to a restaurant. And that's a weird place to end up with a Nintendo platformer, it's been not almost 9 years since we got Odyssey. And I'm secretly hoping that these are two teams, that like the Odyssey team split into two. One of them made Bonanza, and we're also getting a Mario game not in another 10 years. That would sort of shock me. But I harbor similar fears that this is just Nintendo's design philosophy for 3D platformers, and we just have to root for an Astrobot 2, I guess, is where you and I sort of end up.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I just want to like make sure that we touch on is like the skills, which is like this. It's interesting whenever Nintendo like does anything that's more like modern, because they're very much like we do our own design, we do our own hardware, we got our like own kind of weirdo vibes going on. And yeah, the skills thing is interesting too, because it's trying to add meaning to the bananas. They're like, oh well, with the bananas you can get the skills, but you have to get like all the bananas in an area to get a skill point, which I think is like a weird distinction. Like, not all bananas are treated just equal. Can you just make it like 10? Like any 10 I want? They're like, no, they gotta be all in this area because we don't want you to get the skills too fast. Okay, sure. Like, also, you can't open the skills menu whenever you want. It's only when you get a skill point. Okay, sure. Also, the skills are like really boring. I'm like, oh, okay. And like I'm like, okay, I get it. You're all about the bananas. I'm gonna max out the sonar because I'm tired of not knowing where these bananas are.
Agreed.
But then once I maxed out the sonar, it started to become a game of spam the sonar. And I'm like, well, I have to take, like, I think this game has given me an existential crisis mechanically, because I'm like, I have to take a step back, because this cannot be the way that I should be engaging with something, kind of just looking at the bones of the level and digging. And then sometimes you do, to their credit, again, like you mentioned, they'll have that undiggable terrain where it's like, oh, well, how do I get to this thing? Because I can't just burrow to it. But like 8 times out of 10, you can just burrow to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, cool, I did it. Okay, on to the next one. It feels like I'm playing, like, which just sounds like really mean, but it feels like I'm playing a badly made scavenger hunt in this game. Where it's like with made
no
for
hints
like,
at where a scavenger hunt gives you vague and oblique hints at where to look for something. Donkey Kong says, I don't know, keep tapping that R button,
It's like I feel like I'm playing it, and I know, people will say, oh, Nintendo, like, again, I really push back against the, like, Nintendo, oh, it's what's for kids. Did you expect it to get, like, I think that's silly. Like, obviously, they do have a family-friendly, like, angle to them, but it's not. Also, this game's, I was reading through some of, like, your thoughts on crossplay, and, like, yeah, this game is, like, it's not hard, but it is, like, oddly complex in its like the mechanical layering and the level layering. Like, again, I've played a million of these games, so it's like, yeah, like I can just do it. But I was like, if I was a child, this game got hands. Like, I feel like this would be, so it's not, anyway, but
it's not baby's first platformer.
It feels like I'm playing it's an Easter egg hunt, like a children's Easter egg hunt, where they're like, we just kind of threw a bunch of the eggs in the yard, and we know that every kid's gonna find at least like 32 of these, and that's good enough,
and they'll be happy.
Yeah, and so for that reason, they're just like scattered around like haphazardly, because it's like, well, we just want to make sure that you leave here with a lot of eggs. And it feels like they're like, we want to make sure that every 10 seconds you're getting that banana, because without that, like, we don't have a game. And I'm like, yeah, and that's why I like the game less, because it's like, it is so much like that. But I do think I'm going to see it through.
Same.
Because in large part because my colleague over on MinMax, who's also works at Game Informer, Kyle Hilliard, he reviewed it for Game Informer. I don't know if that review's up yet. But he said that the back half really starts to cook. Now, he does sound like he likes it more than me in general, so I don't think I'm necessarily going to land where I don't know what his score is, or I haven't read his review. My guess is that I'm not going to be as hot on the game as he is, based on our conversation on the Midweek show. But the fact that he's like, some of my favorite stuff's in that back end, I'm like, I hate that you told me that, because like, that's the kind of gaslighting that I normally just do to myself, where I was like, I like hopped online, I'm like, hey guys, like asking for a friend, when does this game become the masterpiece y'all were telling me it was? And for a lot of people, no one really gave me like a hard answer on that. Like the people didn't have that like back half comment. So I was like, you know what, maybe it's just one of those things where if I get to it, I get to it, and if I don't, I don't. But Kyle Hilliard gave me some hope that there's some real, because that's what again, and as I think a pseudo student of the genre, like I would like to see more of like what is here, what works, what doesn't, and like what are the ideas. Yeah, I think I don't keep saying the last thing, but I also think, again, another boomer take. Does every Nintendo property need transformations? We got Kirby, we got Yoshi, we got Mario. Donkey Kong was one of the only non-transforming characters, and they said, we need to make him become something. Like, I'm kind of just like, I don't know. It is fun to transform in games, but like, I don't know. I was kind of like, I don't know how I land on that, but I'm curious to see what the rest of them are, because I skipped that direct. They did too, so I have a very shallow understanding of like all the transformations. So excited to be surprised by them, even though they are a little, I don't know, like it's weird. And I do think I'm old though, Patrick, because I played that side level that was Nostalgia Country, and I turned to my fiance and I said, this is the world we would have had if Kamala had won. I don't know.
Did you play Tropical Freeze?
Hell yeah, I played Tropical Freeze. It's so good. I
figured I shouldn't have been presumptuous, but
I love Tropical Freeze.
Yes, in a world where you hadn't played that, obviously that game is peak. Well, I think you and I again, this is a genre I care a lot about, so I will end up playing this game for 60 hours regardless of sort of how I feel, because Nintendo's so important in the space. Like they define a lot of the language, and a lot of the games orbit around it. This will prove very popular. Obviously a lot of people I think like it more than you and I do, and so I want to understand it and like what they're trying to accomplish. So my guess is we'll be reporting back as we dig deeper into the layers of Donkey Kong Bananza.
I do that every time Pauline sings. I do the wicked rip, because it sounds, the first like 3 notes of it sound like it's the Wicked thing. So I go,
Well, now you ruined it for me, because now I'm going to hear that every time that